throwing shit at the pilot. Niggas be broken, be sobbing, but still talking shit like they violent. Niggas is broke.
The Boston Celtics now officially have the first overall pick. No more do teams have to worry about the pick potentially moving down. It is officially the first overall pick. And the Celtics are in one of the most interesting situations in NBA history, as they have a team that is built to win now, but not enough to go all the way while having the first overall pick. There's a dilemma at hand. Do the Celtics try to go all in and win now, or do they try to start the rebuilding process early because of how dominant the Cavs have been, combined with the fact that they do have the first overall pick? Now, me personally, I would try to win now, and there's no question about it, because I know as built right now, the Celtics are not going to beat the Cavs, and I know that. But let's just say they try to rebuild for the future. By the time Markelle and these other picks reach their prime, you know who else is going to reach their prime? Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Lonzo Ball, Devin Booker, them boys in Minnesota. So you're just replacing your current situation and just delaying it for another 4 to 5 years, and you don't even know if you'll have the pieces around those guys to win at that time. All you know is you'll have them. You don't know if in 4 to 5 years you'll be competing for a championship, but you know right now with the right moves, you will be in the mix for the next 4 to 5 years. Now the question is, how would they do it? And do they have to trade the pick in order to do so? And to be honest with you, I don't think they should trade the pick. And I don't believe they will. Because knowing Danny Ainge, he loves bargain deals. If he didn't, he wouldn't have even thought about trading for Jay Crowder and Isaiah Thomas. If you draft Markelle, you have a guy who could potentially come out the gate as your secondary scorer to Isaiah Thomas, who will definitely be a part of your future for the next decade. On a 2-year, $14 million contract on a team option, as far as I know. And it also allows you to work in free agency, as it should leave you with enough cap space to at least go after these big free agents. So you could potentially have Markelle Fultz, a guy with superstar potential that will for sure contribute to the team in a positive way, one way or another, and a big free agent that is already productive and hungry right now, on top of a team that is already in the Eastern Conference Finals as we speak. Like, you literally have the potential to sign 2 all-star caliber players this offseason realistically. And what people don't really talk about when it comes to the pick is they don't have to make a trade on the day of the draft, which is why I wouldn't be surprised if we see Adam Silver go up to the podium and say, with the first overall pick, the Boston Celtics select Markelle Fultz. I know people are going to say, well, if you look at last year, the Celtics couldn't make a trade because they already made the pick. That is not the case this year. Last year was a one-man draft in Ben Simmons. Everyone else was subjective to the team. The 3 spot could have ranged from all the way to Chris Dunn, to Jaylen Brown, to Buddy Hield, to Jamal Murray, to a lot of guys. After the pick has been drafted, obviously you lose value because teams don't have the option to choose who they want. They would be stuck with Jaylen Brown. But if you have the first overall pick, this is not the case. Even after the pick has been made, it would still be as equal value to every team that wants it, because everyone would pick Markelle Fultz at 1, except for maybe the Los Angeles Lakers and the Phoenix Suns. And the Celtics aren't trying to make a trade with any of the players from any of those 2 teams. So it's not like you wouldn't get a player you want, because you do. The Bulls aren't gonna say, oh no, the Celtics already drafted Markelle. We wanted the pick before the draft because we want options. No, they would have picked Markelle regardless, so it doesn't matter. And one more thing, man. People really do underestimate the ability of a number 1 overall pick to contribute to a championship team. Like, there's a difference when you're trying to make a rookie the secondary or go-to scorer right off the bat on a contending team. But if we're talking about a rookie being a key component to a championship team, it's definitely possible. And if it is possible, why would you go out and trade your assets plus that guy for another guy who's going to have an expensive contract and possibly less potential? Like in 1986, the Celtics drafted Len Bias. First of all, rest in peace. But if you think Len Bias wouldn't have elevated that team even more, even just as a rookie, you are dead wrong. That's like telling me Carmelo wouldn't have made a difference to the 2004 Pistons. Obviously they won without him, but he definitely would have made a difference on that team and be a big part of it. Same thing if you added Karl Anthony Towns as a rookie to the Clippers. Like, he'd still be a pretty big part of that team and be a significant piece. they would still have the same potential that they have if they went to the Timberwolves. Like, that's still the same player. And if we look at the landscape right now, there are 2 teams running the league, and they'll run it for the next 4 to 5 years. Although LeBron is 32 right now, it doesn't look like he's gonna slow down significantly for another 2 to 3 years. Kyrie Irving is only 25 years old and hasn't reached his prime yet. Kevin Love's only 28, which is relatively young. Now going to the Warriors, their big 4 are all between 27 and 29. And looking at the way the Celtics' big 3 and the Spurs have extended their dominance even through their 30s, they could be running the league for another 4 to 6 years. Don't get me wrong, the Celtics after a big move or 2 can compete with these guys. But it's not worth it going all in to win in the next 2 to 3 years with veteran players without any guarantees even after those moves, because people don't realize not only do the Celtics have to worry about beating the Cavs, once they get past the Cavs, there's another question. Are they good enough to beat the Warriors? So if you're the Celtics, you're trying to beat the Cavs with a big 3 and the Warriors with a big 4 in one season. That's a pretty big commitment. Like, I'm just saying, man, I don't want the Celtics to be in a Clippers situation in the next 3 years where they're forced to try to win right now, where they would have the pieces to compete every year, but never enough to take them over the top. Or worse, in a Nets situation where they went all in a 2 to 3 year stretch and came out with nothing. No championships to show for and no picks to build around for the future. I'm not saying that drafting Markelle and keeping Markelle would guarantee the Celtics a championship for the future after the LeBron era, because as I said, Embiid's going to be in his prime, Ben Simmons, these other guys are going to be in their prime. I'm just saying, would you rather not have Markelle in that time period or have him to go forward? I would say I'd rather have Markelle. So no, I would not trade Markelle Fultz for anybody, unless it's a guy like Kawhi or Durant or Harden or Davis or someone of that magnitude. However, I would look into trading the 2018 pick though, if the Celtics can sign a big time free agent this offseason. Because if we ever get to a point where the Celtics have Markelle, and let's just go with Hayward since he's the hot name right now, I don't believe Avery Bradley would like playing on the bench, and same with Jay Crowder. And that would make trading them easier since the Celtics would still have Terry Rozier, Jaylen Brown, and Marcus Smart to back up these guys, which aren't as good as Bradley and Crowder, don't get me wrong, but when you have Markelle and Hayward, they would be more than good enough, especially after one more offseason of development. But at the same time, the Celtics would still have 2 valuable pieces in Avery Bradley and Jay Crowder, plus a 2018 pick to trade without really feeling any significant loss. So at that point, the only weakness the Celtics would have in their roster is shot blocking and rebounding. And this is where it gets crazy, man. At this point in the game, I would call Pat Riley in Miami and ask him for that man Hassan Whiteside. Or I'd call Dennis Lindley in Utah for Rudy Gobert. Or good old Doc Rivers in Los Angeles for DeAndre Jordan. The Heat, let's be honest right now, would have rather tanked the season compared to what it turned out to be, which is the 9th seed, not having a good lottery pick, nor being in the playoffs. They were obviously in rebuilding mode. It was just halted by one of the most bizarre stretches I've ever seen when they started winning. And as good as Hassan Whiteside is, he's not gonna attract any free agents, man, nor bring you to the promised land, or be a building block for your team in the upcoming years. So with the 2018 pick, you got yourself a pick that would probably go top 3 again, and I'd be really surprised if it didn't go top 5. Plus guys like Avery Bradley and Jay Crowder on top of that, who no one would complain about having on their team. Now with Utah and Rudy Gobert, I know what you're saying, man. The Jazz are in a win now situation, and they're doing pretty good in the West this year. Why would they trade Rudy Gobert, arguably the defensive player of the year? Now remember, at this point in the scenario, we are assuming that Hayward is already on the Celtics. So now you just lost your best player, and all you have is Rudy Gobert and who? Derek Favors, George Hill, Joe Johnson. Look, those guys are good, but they're not going to lead you to a better record than what you had this year, especially without Gordon Hayward. So if I'm them, I would also try to rebuild or retool for at least 1 year. You get Avery Bradley, an upgrade in the 2 position, and Jay Crowder, an acceptable small forward at the 3, with Derek Favors as your big man, and then you could potentially have Michael Porter Jr. the year after to replace Gordon Hayward the year after he left at a cheaper price. while the Celtics get a young rim protector and a rebounder in Gobert that fits their system perfectly. And lastly, with the Clippers, it's been what, the 4th, 5th straight year choking in the playoffs? They have to change it up one way or another. This scenario would be more logical if Blake and CP3 left, since we know DeAndre would be useless without Chris Paul, so they'd be forced to trade him. But even if they come back, I wouldn't just ignore this deal, because Avery Bradley and Jay Crowder would still be a much needed upgrade at the 2 and 3 if they're trying to win now. Plus, they have the 2018 pick to rebuild with, because we all know that one way or another, this CP3 era will end. It's just a matter of when. And when that time comes, trust me, it's gonna be nice having a Michael Porter Jr. or a Shareef O'Neal on your team. Trust me. So at this point, the Celtics would have a starting lineup of Isaiah Thomas, Markelle Fultz, Gordon Hayward, Al Horford, either Hassan Whiteside, Rudy Gobert, DeAndre Jordan as their center, with Marcus Smart, Terry Rozier, Jaylen Brown, Kelly Olynyk, and Ante Zizic as their second unit. You have a team that could absolutely compete with the Cavs and the Warriors because of the rim protection, the outside shooting, the depth, the coaching, and the star power, while having a core of Markelle, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, and Ante Zizic, who people don't really know about Zizic, but a lot of people say that he'd be a top 10 pick in this year's stacked draft to carry them into the next era of NBA basketball. Similar to how the Spurs had Kawhi while competing with Manu, Parker, and Duncan. Like, I don't know about you, but this would honestly be the perfect roster for the Celtics. And to be honest, it's not really out of the realm of possibility, since Gordon Hayward going to the Celtics is a pretty well discussed topic, and the teams I've mentioned would definitely consider a trade involving Jay Crowder, Avery Bradley, and the projected top 3 pick in 2018, considering their situation. And there's multiple teams that would do this trade. Miami, Los Angeles, the Jazz, the Pistons with Andre Drummond. There's a lot of options here for the Celtics. One of them has to come close to bite. Hopefully one of them do. And I like my chances with that package. But again, you know what? Shout out to Danny Ainge, man, because he really has put himself and his team in a win-win-win-win-win situation. If they can't get a trade or sign a big free agent like I said they should try to do, and I think they will, but you know, who knows if they'll actually succeed. Oh well, they have cap space to work with in free agency for other players to fit their system, plus the #1 overall pick, which you can't complain having the #1 overall pick when your team was in the Eastern Conference Finals the year before. You can't complain. Like, no matter what Danny does, it will be an upward trend unless he tries to blow everything up, which I don't think he will. But with that being said, I hope you all enjoyed this video. This was on the long side. But again, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I am out. Peace.